Hello, welcome. This is Sam of Sambookery, and today I've got a video for you guys going over my top 5 favorite punches to use in my junk journals. I love using punches, and there's a lot on the market, so I don't want you guys to, maybe if you're starting out, to go out and buy everything not knowing if you'll use it. Over the years, I've kind of pared down, and I've got the 5 that I always seem to reach for over and over again in all my junk journals. So I wanted to share those with you guys. Number 1 is my corner rounder. This is a Kato Maru Pro corner rounder. There's probably other brands too, but what this has is a small, medium, and large option for rounding corners on things, which I find very handy because the smaller ephemera, you want to have a smaller rounded corner. It looks odd to have a huge rounded corner on teeny tiny little cards. But on large areas, you might want to have a much bigger round. I did originally, I will do an honorable mention, use my Crocodile corner chomper. Comes with a 1/4 inch and a 1/2 inch. But I believe the 1/4 inch is kind of like the medium and the 1/2 inch is the large, but there was no small option. So it was kind of overkill on tiny things. And of course, tiny things are cute, and I like to use tiny things in my journals. So one thing I have are these tiny journaling cards. These are for my mini journal, so they are of course mini. And when things are small, you need to scale down what you're doing to them. So let me cut this out and show you guys the options. So on this, I will generally use a small, and you just slide it in. There's no guesswork. It fits perfectly in here at this 90-degree angle, and you just press and boom, you probably see it better on the table. There's your tiny rounded corner. I'll show you the medium, which is bigger, and then the large, which is very rounded. But that's a good size for larger, like full-size junk journals. This is a good size for most journaling cards, and then the small is perfect for the mini journals and for smaller pieces of ephemera. And it's got a plastic cover on the bottom, which I need to empty this, where it traps all the little corners it punches off so it doesn't make a mess anywhere. Yeah, I need to empty that. Let me do that. So I can show you guys. Here's the bottom. It's a really simple device. I've never had it jam. I've never had it get stuck. I've never had this come off and spill everywhere. Like, this is awesome. I love it. This one's great, but the little bits go in here, and it's a tiny little area, so you're constantly having to stop, shake it out to get everything out, which I found kind of annoying. So this one, I've done several kits, and I haven't dumped it out. I dumped it out now. We're ready to start fresh, but honestly, you can go months and months and months and not empty it, and it still works fine. So that is my number 1 favorite punch to use in my junk journals. Let's see. I'm going to do these in the order of like the most used. Oh, let me show you else. So other places I've used them. These color palette cards, these are from my sketchbooks. I like to print them all out and save them together just as a reference on my desk. And I use a corner rounder on these. I just think it looks prettier. Rounded corners too also make things a little bit easier to put inside of pockets and envelopes. And they don't get bent up and look kind of grungy after a while. The rounded corner stays looking nice. So that's something else I have used them for. So my second most used punch is a 1-inch circle punch. Now, I'm not particular about brands. I had a Martha Stewart one I used for years and years I love, but it died on me. This is a Recollections one. I don't have a brand preference, but 1-inch size is my absolute favorite. It is the most useful. Most of my kits will have 1-inch circles. They're sized exactly to fit in here, and when you use them, the way I use them is, I don't use this. Well, you don't need that. I put it on there when I store it so I don't accidentally like cut myself, but you flip them over, and if you're lining up a circle, you line it up exactly, but you line it up in here where you want it, and you use them upside down. That way you can see exactly where you're punching, and then you have a perfect 1-inch circle. And the main thing I use the 1-inch circles for is these portfolio closures. I love to use these for that. Another thing I use the 1-inch circles for is punching a notch out So you're using like a half circle out of a pocket. There's not one in here, but here's another use of it. This circle I've added on here with a brad, and it swings out of the way so that this can flip up. That is handy. So circles, as the circle shape themselves, great for closure. But when you're doing pockets, it's kind of boring to have all your pockets like be straight across at the top. So let's find one. Oh, there was one. So I will just use this, and we'll assume this is a pocket, right? So flip it over and just slide it down halfway. You're centering it from left to right, and you're going down. I don't even go halfway because that's a little too far. I go a little less than halfway and punch that out. And now you have a really cute pocket. It makes it easier to get things out of the pocket, and it just looks cuter to have something happening besides just being straight across. So that is the second main way I use the 1-inch circle punch. Let's see if we can spot any. And then I do use the circles on ephemera inside of journals sometimes. So I will put them on the top of a tag just as a fun pull to the top of the tag. I'll put them on something that needs to be flipped out as like a handle so that you know to flip it out. Let's see if we have any more in here. I really don't remember. Sometimes I just use them as ephemera on the page as part of a cluster as well. If you're putting down like a word strip and maybe a piece of ribbon or something and then a circle and just overlap them all, they're great to be part of that. Here's a circle. Now this is a bigger one, which I will get to, but using them as a tab is another way to use these circles. And you can even cut them in half if you don't want them to stick out very far, and just glue a little half on here as a tab. Circles are hard to cut out and make them look perfect when you're using scissors. So having a punch for a circle to me is indispensable. That is why the 1-inch circle punch is number 2 on my list of favorite punches. My number 3 is the 1.5-inch circle punch. And you think 1 inch, 1.5 inch, those sound very similar, but let me show you. It's a vast difference in size. And so having the 1 inch is standard. If you could only have one circle punch, get the 1 inch. But the 1.5 inch is great for bigger things like this circle here, or on pockets when you want a more gentle curve and a wider curve to allow better access to the pocket. Using this larger one gives you a much better shape to the top of your pocket, especially on larger pockets. So this is a tiny pocket. This tiny 1 inch is great. But let me show you, and you don't stick it in all the way. You kind of just go in a little bit. But this gives you a nice gentle curve to the top of your pocket. It looks nice, and it's easier to get things in and out of. And that is what I use the 1.5 inch circle punch for. I don't use it as often as the 1 inch, but I do use it quite often, especially in full-size journals, because that is a great size. So you can see this pocket here. I use this, did I use this one? Yes, to make this scoop here in the pocket. And I think it just looks so much cuter. I've used it here on this flip to notch out the top so that I knew that this was a pocket in there. If I left it straight, I might not have remembered that I had put something in there, and that was in there. So great way to add a little opening to pockets. That is my number 2, is the number 3, is the 1.5 inch circle punch. And again, I don't have a favorite brand. I don't know of one that's better than another. I just, whichever one I get that punches, I'm happy with. There's nothing on this one to say who it's from. But I believe I have, maybe not these exact brands, but a punch listed on my Amazon storefront. My 4th favorite punch to use in my junk journals, can you guess what it is? It's a tab punch. This one punches out a tab shape. And this is my absolute favorite for using up scraps. When you cut out junk journal kits, you usually have the long strips around the sides that they'll usually have like the backing print on them, but it'll just be white on the front because you would cut out the fussy cut or whatever you were cutting out on the front. And you can go through with those long strips and get several of these tabs punched out. And I usually will do that. I'll just save my strips and just sit down one day and just punch, 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 and I'll get a whole big bowl of these tabs. And I know I've got one. I think I've got one here somewhere. Let's see. Sometimes I'll put them, I don't have them in here, but these little tins are perfect for them. And I can just chuck them in these little tins. And then anytime I need a tab for a journal, I can just dump them out, sort through, pick one that goes with the journal, and I'm ready to go. This one is great. It's got something printed on both sides, but if you've got one that's only got a printing on one side, you just want to punch two. You glue this to the front of the page, then you turn the page, and this will be like the ugly white side, or it's got like some printing on it, and then glue a second one on this side. So they're back to back, and just line up the edges, and then it looks pretty on both sides. I know I've used one in here on this one. So this was just one of the backing papers from the kit, and so I just punched that out from some of the scraps, and I did two of them. Let me see what I did. Oh, this was glued. Oh, this was a separate piece of ephemera. So they're back to back on this card here, which is the back of this whole tag pocket. And then I glued the whole tag pocket down to a page in my journal. So that's why you don't see the feet on this side, but it's the same on both sides. I'm trying to think. And then this one, no, that tab's from the kit. So I do pretty much, in most of my kits, put tabs for you guys to use if you don't have a punch, and they're the kind that you cut out the shape and fold them in half and stick them on. But if you have this punch, you can make so many more different tabs out of so many different papers, because every kit or any vintage paper or whatever you have has lots of different patterns on them. And if you just take a time and punch a bunch out, you'll have a lot more variety to choose from when you're putting together a junk journal. Here's another one, just punched out of scrap paper, and it's used as a like a tab top pull to this journaling card, and I backed it with this different paper. Just all punched from scraps that I thought kind of went with this journal. Super handy. I know there's some other types of tab punches out there. I don't know where I got this. Oh, but it is We Are Memory Keepers. Love them. And it has been a workhorse. Never had any trouble with it at all. So I do recommend this specific one from this specific brand. I like this one. Super handy, helpful, giving you extra ephemera for no extra ink, no extra money, like once you invest in the tab punch, because you're going to throw those scraps away anyway, or you're trying to find, you know, good ways to use them up. And this to me is an excellent way to use up your scraps, because now I've got this cute piece of ephemera. If I'm doing, see, I've got sunflowers here, I can add this to this journal here already, and it'll look cute. And I've got a neutral side. So if I've got another journal going that's more neutral, I can use it in there. Super cute. So that is my fifth favorite. And I don't, oh no, that's only the fourth, you guys. There's one more. I put them out of order. My fourth favorite punch to use in my journals. Let me put all these back on, or I will totally lose them. I rip them off every time I want to use a punch. I rip them off because I can't see through this clear. It's like, it's transparent, but not 100%. And I like to be able to line things up perfectly. So I always just rip them off. Like, why is this on here? But then I'm always afraid I might cut myself, because that's got to be sharp, right? It's cutting through paper. So I always put them back. All right, the last one I use is this heart punch. And this is a very tiny one, but not super tiny. This came in a set of like 5 sizes of hearts. And this is the size I use most often. It is this size. And what I use these for is the ends of strings. If I want something to lie flat, so I don't want to put on beads or charms or anything dimensional that might bulk up the journal or folio, then I will punch out these hearts and glue them onto the ends of the strings. And that finishes the strings off so they don't unravel. And it just looks cute. It's just cute, right? So I punch out 2 hearts and I glue them back to back. And it's another way that I can use up scraps, right? Those long strips. any little bits in between things you're cutting out that have like an odd shape, you can take this little tiny punch and get a couple of hearts out. So these are so cute. I'm not going to do it, but I think I did it in one of the recent videos. I did this and I showed you guys. So I turned the heart upside down. I put a tiny bit of art glitter glue just in the center, and I lay the string on the glue. And then I take the second heart, glue all over it, and then put the hearts together so that the string is sandwiched in between in the glue. They're all glued together, it's permanent. And now you've got a pretty finish to your strings. And you can use it for the closure strings or the signature strings. Signature strings are the strings in the center of your folds of pages that are left over, right? After you tie in your journal pages. You can cut these short and just leave them in here, just kind of tuck them in. But I like to do something with them. We've already got them. Let's add something to them. So if I don't add beads and charms and let them hang out the bottom or the top, if I want them to just stay within the journal, but still have something on them, that's when I will cut them to about here and put the hearts on them. They're nice and flat. It won't bulk anything up, but it'll still look cute when you get to the middle instead of just having strings just sticking out from the sides. So that is what I use the heart punch for. I don't use it a ton, but I use it enough that has made my top 5. So, let's put these back on. We got to be safety first, you guys. Safety first. I don't know if they can cut you, but I'm afraid. Like the second, because I wanted to just rip them all off and throw them away because I don't use them. I was like, no, you know what? There's probably a good reason they put that on there. I'll leave it. So, top punches. There are a ton of punches out there. I'm going to show you a couple other ones that did not make my top 5. I've got this circle punch, which is ginormous. I think this is a 2-inch circle punch. I've got this tag punch. It makes an adorable shaped little tag. It's almost kind of like a clothing tag or garage sale tag, which is a great way to use up scraps as well, making extra tags. I have a 1/2-inch circle punch. And these are all here on my desk near where I junk journal. So I do use them. They made it, they're not in storage. They made it to the desk. And I have this one that does a fancy top to tags. When you stick in paper strips, it'll chop them into these shapes. And that's really handy to have. So all of these are great punches. See if that's it. They all made it to my desk within hand's reach when I'm junk journaling and doing videos for you guys. But they didn't make it to my top 5 because I do not use them as often as the others. But still made it to the desk. I still have a bunch of other punches that are in storage. So like this heart came in a set of 5. I will use the other ones occasionally, maybe especially for Valentine's journals or something, but this one I will use a lot. So number 5 was this small heart punch. And let's see if we can figure out what size this is, because I don't know that they probably will be in millimeters. Everything's always in metric. So we are 15 millimeters across. And that is 5/8 of an inch. So if you're looking for, and if you're able to find one that's not in the vast set. And you can size up or size down. To me, this was like the Goldilocks size right in the middle. So 5/8 inch, 15 millimeter heart punch, number 5. We Are Memory Keepers tab punch. I like this shape. I like this shape. There are other tab punches out there. Any tab punch is great to have in your arsenal. It helps you use up scraps, gives you quick extra ephemera to use in your journals. Super handy. The 1.5-inch circle punch, great for notching pockets, great for making circles to make tabs, or punching out circular ephemera. The 1-inch circle punch, if I only had to have one of any of these shaped punches, it's this one. It's indispensable. Great for making circles for closures, great for notching smaller pockets, great for making ephemera for clusters. Love it. And my number 1 is the corner rounder. I love putting rounded corners on things. It gives it a finished look. It's a softer look, more vintage, and easier to put in and out of pockets, easier to keep from getting bent and damaged. And this one is my favorite, the Kato Maru Pro with the small, medium, and large. But any way you can round corners is a great way. I love rounded corners. So those are my top 5 punches that I love to use in my junk journaling. Thank you guys for stopping by. I really appreciate all your nice comments. I appreciate you guys taking the time to watch these videos with me. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.